something's not right with the shifter. I am back out home after spending a day at the track yesterday testing these two bikes. Both have been repaired. The Aprilia, pretty good fork changes. So far so good. One of the problems though with the NSR is the gear shifter. I had to repair the rear sets after a crash, putting the pegs back together, and the gear shifter here, when upshifting, would tend to bind. A lot of that has to do with the angle of the gear shifter to where it mounts. So this linkage, realistically, in the neutral position, isn't optimal, especially here. This needs to be 90 degrees perpendicular to the shift linkage here. Essentially what I need to do is make this longer so that I can rotate this a little more on the spline, and I'll have less binding. I'll have a little more positive shifting action. What it comes down to is I need a longer rod. That's where the Aprilia comes in. Over here, the Aprilia has the opposite problem. This rod is too long. You can see the angle here. This bolt, I also can't get a wrench on it because it's too close to the case, because realistically it needs to be rotated more towards the frame. This lever arm needs to essentially be parallel to the frame. To make that possible, I need a shorter linkage. Ironically, I have two bikes here with opposite problems. So today, I'm going to do a transplant. I'm going to take the rod off this bike, put it on that bike, and vice versa, and see if I can solve the problem. If that doesn't work, then phase 2 is going to be to take the end of the rod here, put extra threads on it, and then cut this to be shorter. But that's phase 2. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. But today I'm going to finish getting both of these bikes sorted out regarding the shifters. First thing is first, here on the Aprilia, I am going to loosen the nuts and allow the shift linkage to be unwound. So literally just going to unscrew this and take it out. And then we're going to try to put this on the NSR. Unfortunately, as you can see, as I'm loosening this, the pedal's getting in the way. So I'm going to have to take those two bolts out to get it off. And then we'll take this lever arm. I got to find some way to get a wrench in there to loosen the nut and get that removed. Okay, I've managed to get the bolt mostly loosened. I've had to hold up on the shift lever to rotate that down enough to clear the case. But that should come out next, and we're getting close to removing the linkage. Okay, the bolt's out now, and just trying to wiggle this off the end of the shaft. There we go. So essentially the final position I want to get this to is a little more parallel to the frame. I still have my linkage binding there. This lever arm I want to have parallel to the frame. Yay, got the linkage unscrewed. Almost there. Time to switch to the NSR and do the same thing over here. So let's compare the length of the new shift shaft. Let's get it off and actually compare the actual lengths. They may actually be identical. Okay, here's the NSR here. I loosened the nut on each end and just unscrewing. And we'll take this shaft out and compare it to the Aprilia shaft. Come on, there we go. Now, yes, that looks a little bit shorter. It may be enough to do the job. Try this one on the Aprilia. Back over on the Aprilia side, first things first, I got the lever here put back on. Now it's roughly parallel with the frame. It wasn't before, and the bolt points down instead of into the case, which means I can get a wrench onto the head of the bolt. to take it out. I couldn't do that before. So this is really putting all that was wrong back in the right. And now I'm going to try to put the linkage back on and see if we can get the pedal height, etc., to be correct. Okay, final result. I got my foot put on this, set the pedal height. I used up all the adjustment on the rod. There's none left, so I can't move this down any further. I can move it up. But at this point, I just need to tighten the nuts, and that now is roughly a 90-degree angle to the linkage. This one isn't perfect, but it is, well, that's all I can do. Here, I'm going to tighten it up. I think that's good. Not that it had a shifting problem like the NSR did, but we'll move on to the NSR now and swap this shaft over. Hopefully equally good results here. Okay, I got the linkage put on the NSR here. The crank here looks like it's at about 90 degrees to the linkage. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this so far. The only problem is here. It's not quite 90 degrees there, and it's not going to be when I make another change. The pedal's too low. And I'm out of adjustment here. So this means I need to take the rod and thread it a little bit further and shorten it. I'm going to need to do that on both ends here. So this is a right-hand thread, that's a left-hand thread. Fortunately, I have the tools to do this. So I'm going to do that, and it should allow me to bring the lever up to the middle of the adjustment range. That's where I want to be. That way I can move it up or down in the future, and everybody's life is better. Okay, that's what it's going to take to finish this off, so I'm going to go and rethread the rod. Moved inside here to the bench. I have my left-hand thread to fix the left-hand side of the rod. I have my right-hand thread. I was ready to go, and then unfortunately I've never used this die. Here is my tap handle. That ain't gonna work, which means now I do not have the tools I need to finish this. Amazon, even next day delivery, yeah, that's great, but I don't have time to work till next weekend. So I'm going to put this on pause, and we'll have to finish this project later. I will go ahead and run the die on this end and finish this one up, but the left-hand head's gotta wait until I buy more tools. Harbor Freight probably doesn't have a 1-inch die handle. Anyway, I don't know that I want to spend an hour and a half of my day just going to purchase something. Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave this. I'm back here because I realized how stupid I am. It doesn't matter threading the left-hand side. I don't need to use that. The right-hand side, I extended the threads. That's why they're so incredibly long here. I did realize I need to make the rod shorter, not make the threads go further so I can adjust it further. So I extended the threads here, and now, and I used my die to do that, all I need to do is cut this off. The extended threads should work, and I'm back in business. So I'm gonna finish hacksawing this off and hopefully resume my project. It's been all cut off here, chopped it off, took about a 1/4 inch off, and then I'm just running the die over the ends of the threads to make sure any burrs are removed, and time to go try to put this back on the bike. Okay, this is the hex bar stock I have for making shift linkages. What I need to do here is tap the end. So I need to drill a hole in the end and then tap it out. Then cut this to the appropriate length after measuring. Do the same thing on the opposite end, tap and thread a left-hand hole. And that's how I'm gonna make my shift linkage. I am going to put the shift linkage in turn down the center section by spinning this in a drill press, and using my hacksaw blade I will just run it down as it spins until it's semi-round. Anyway, that's how I'm gonna make the shift linkage. Okay, I've got the shift shaft started here, and I just need to rotate it. Got the nuts on the ends. That's the full range of adjustment. I think now my pedal height is gonna be functional. So before I tighten everything up 100%, I'm gonna go ride it around the parking lot, just make sure it fits my foot. I took a quick little ride around. I just did the pedal to where I want it for my foot. So time to just tighten up the bolts. Gonna put a little Loctite on. And that will finish up things. I'm gonna put the little rubber piece back on the toe pedal, but my NSR is hopefully back to riding condition. All finished for the day. The transplant, I guess both are recipients and donors. NSR rides okay. I'd like the pedal to be a little bit longer for my foot, personal thing, but it's not adjustable. This one is much better aligned over here. Height is okay, I can ride it. One thing just to point out to myself for the future is the shift shaft. As I move this, it's moving in that seal there. Hopefully it shows on the video, but that's just part of the design. There's nothing I can do about that. I hope it doesn't get worse. Anyway, it shifts okay on the track. It should be even better now that these are aligned to the shift linkage, roughly 90 degrees, maximum leverage. This one isn't. So this one is a little bit offset. If this was back a little bit further, that would be better, but to move it back further, the pedal has to come up, then it doesn't fit my foot. So, well, that is what it is, but it's optimized, for lack of a better term.